Warriors Unite! Back with another episode of Bigger Warriors 2 in the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well on this Sunday afternoon. Cold but wonderful, my friends in the Midwest. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are conquesting yourselves, conquesting things around you under God's purposes. It is great to be with you guys again. I'm going to have some changes coming up. I'm decided to kind of go a little more full blast on this than I was before. I think we're going to do is kind of change up a little bit. I'm going to try to get a PC pretty soon, a new one, and try to work with that a little bit. I may actually kind of get out of the car a little bit and do more stuff in a studio, or at least put together some area I can do it at. And also try to, a lot of you guys have asked for tutoring, mentoring, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to start doing some of that stuff. So we're going to kind of expand this upcoming year and looking at all of that kind of stuff too. So trying to help you guys as much as possible. Once again, I'm not really, into this to make money or anything like that. I'm more interested right now in trying to help people. I may eventually, I think we have like 65, almost, 6,500 subscribers, which is wonderful. Thank you guys so much for all of that. I may go sponsorship at some point, maybe if I hit 10,000 or something like that. But I'm really kind of looking more at trying to disseminate the message. And I know I still get a bunch of people sending me, emails about, how this is not really real. It's pathetic and things like that. And, all I can say is that you should try it. I thought that was the case for 47 years myself, but I went back and tried to use monk mode. I tried these things, and I have seen a huge difference. I'm 63 years old, going on 64 years old, and it's just amazing to me, the difference in life and the way people look at you, men and women. How much there's more admiration for you. There's lots of things. And yes, you could talk about the fact that what plays into it is a lot of, confidence, things like that. And that's a big part of it, but it comes from somewhere. It starts from somewhere. So I'm going to forego a little bit of the shout-outs today. We're going to just talk about this topic a little bit. So we're talking about the fact with trying to deal with narcissistic people. So the topic for today is the best way to deal with narcissistic people when you're on retention. So let's take a step back a little bit here and focus again on the idea we're talking about here. And again, I get people who, don't believe in this. They don't really like it. They don't like my yelling too. So, but this is a battle. And the reason why it's a battle is for this very topic reason. The idea that we talk about is the idea that people are very self-centered in this world. There used to be a time, and this has happened to all generations, that dynasties, if you want to call it, happened back in Sodom and Gomorrah. It happened in Babylon. It happened in Roman Empire. It's happened in Incas and the Mayas and the English and Tudors. And it's happened to all the dynasties in China. What happens is that at the beginning of these things, when they are first started, people can't afford to be narcissistic. They can't afford to be self-centered, even though most of us, we all have that tendency if we wanted to use it, right? But we have to then, to build cities and towns and nations, we have to have a cooperative, giving nature. And the trouble, what happens is as time goes on and towns are built, let's say about 200 years or so, you look at Babylon, you look at Roman Empire, it's a little bit longer than Roman Empire, of course, but, when you look at some of these, you're saying 250 years, maybe 300 years. The United States is close to that type of limit. And we're looking and saying, okay, what is happening here? We're talking about this. And we're talking about the idea then is that we have replaced the givers with the takers. And as generations goes on, they forget about all the troubles and the sacrifices, survival type of things that the previous generations did. And now they're focusing more on grabbing whatever they want. And this is where you get the lascivious behaviors, the sinful behaviors, and all the other things that occur to stop a generation, a civilization from moving on. And eventually those civilizations destroy themselves from within. The Roman Empire wasn't destroyed from an army necessarily. It was first destroyed from within. The same thing happened to Babylon. The same thing happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, Incas, Maya. All these other types of dynasties that have fallen over the years, they fell because they start crumbling from within because of all these lascivious behaviors. They lost the idea of helping each other out. Most people decide, I'm in it for myself, I don't care, and so I'm going to just try to grab as much money or wealth or power or sex, whatever it might be, that I'm going to get. And this is what you see in the dating behaviors, you see with the money out there, you see with all of the types of things. You're talking about one of these systems that becomes like a dictatorship system. The elites are up here, the poor people down there, there's not really any kind of middle class, and you're talking about people who then become very narcissistic. And narcissistic means all they care about is their own benefits. They're trying to get their own benefits out of this, and whatever they can do that. And so as our good old viewer Sultan Job had said, he said, what's the best way to deal with narcissistic, people? Well, first of all, we have to realize that as a man, and if you are really a man, a strong man, like all of us are in the warrior and the figure warrior too, channel here, we know that we are givers by nature. Men are givers. So by nature, our job is to solve problems. We try to solve problems. We're trying to help people. So if people have problems, we go and try to solve it. We've been doing this since the caveman, was alive. Trying to find, food, protection, wherever it might be. Find all those things we need to have in order for our town, our country, whatever it might be, our family, our wife, or, to live, those type of things. So we focus on these things, and we focus on these things being very important. And so now the male then is a giver. So as a giver, we are more prone to be affected by narcissistic behavior. And a lot of women who, especially the modern women nowadays, they can be more self-centered because the society has changed in the viewpoints. And if men are not as strong as they used to be, women become stronger and more masculine, then they become more narcissistic. They're not the givers, even though they're more masculine. They are still in their own situation where they tend to be more the takers. And all you have to do is look at intercourse. It's the male giving to the female, and it's always the same. Now, in a big sense, then, the male then protects the female and provides for the female, because the female then is the person who is going to continue the generations and population forward. So as males, we recognize we have to do that. We have to protect our offsprings. We have to protect our people in the future. So we cater into it. Now, what happens, but, is that the downside of this, especially if you have very narcissistic people, and females, and we look at particular, they will really take advantage and use males. Now, the males don't mind this in some cases, especially the ones who are simps. They don't mind this so much because they still get the benefit of being with a beautiful woman, in this case, and someone who they can go ahead and provide and protect. But the idea that you have to be careful with is not losing yourself in all of this. And this is where a lot of men, young men, struggle with, because they become very desperate. They become very simpish in their behaviors. And so what they end up doing is catering to this narcissist behavior. And the narcissist is not going to stop. They're going to continue being only for themselves. Now, unless they're forced to sit in a situation where now they have to kind of look at themselves in a mirror, which you can do, but you have to have a little bit of discipline. They will stop and look and say, okay, in order to get where I need to go, the narcissist will say, now I have to behave differently. And that's the best you can do with a person who's going to be thinking about themselves nonstop. Now, how do you do that? Well, let's talk about this for a second. So, under retention, and, once again, people who write to me, they may not have any beliefs in retention, understand this. And we'll do a separate one on this because I also think that More Master 6621 asked me about this as well. There is a calmness that comes from retention. You keeping your energy within you, and God has given you the energy, right? They're keeping the energy within you, and so as a result of that, you now have all your nutrients. You're as strong as you can be. And there's a calmness in there that happens because of those nutrients you have. You're able to relax more. You don't feel any anxiety, right? The times you feel anxiety, which I did over the years, was because I tended to release my energy all the time. And if I did that, all of a sudden, I became a lot more anxious. Well, that's because I was probably down to 80%, 75%, 60% of the way I should be. And of course, if you're not with yourself, you're not going to be able to handle those situations as well. And that's a big part of the issue. So many men fall into the problem with narcissistic people that they keep losing their identity more and more. And because their basic nature is to give, then they're going to continue to lose more than themselves. When now they become a shell of themselves, and now they're being controlled by that person who's a narcissistic person. So it is tough, but it goes back to the fact that if you're retaining, you're building a level of self-control. Now, the self-control plays a big factor into this solution. You have to be able to say no to her, and you have to be able to not be there all the time. Because that narcissistic person is depending on you to help them out of any situation. They may not need you the rest of the time, but they're going to call you when they need you. The problem is, and if they're not giving back what you want, then the problem is that person, you become then kind of a clown, we can call it, to that person. And the person has very little respect for you and will treat you accordingly. So as we focus on looking at this whole idea, self-control, retention, plays a big factor in how to deal with narcissistic people. I've had more success with narcissistic people over the last 4 years now. I'm up to 1,600 days or something like this, than I had for 50 years. Because I realized that what the problem was me. I was not at full strength. I could not handle this situation and have a level of self-control. If you gain a level of self-control, you could say no to this person. Now, is this person going to get upset with you? Especially if you change who you are and all of a sudden start saying no? Sure. But you have to withstand that. You're going to have to be able to put up with that and say, no, I don't want to do this. If you don't truly want to do something, you have to say that. Retention will give you that confidence, calmness to do that. The second thing, obviously, if she's calling you or texting you all the time, don't always be available. Don't answer her text message right away. Now, if you have free time, you want to do that, great. But don't feel like you always have to go ahead and respond right away. You have a life, and this is what I'm really saying. Develop a life on yourself, on your own. Get your goals together, spiritual, physical, mental goals, and start working on yourself more and more. Like, for example, I continue to try to, even at 63, going on 64 in June, I continue to try to have goals. I'll have goals until I'm 98. Hopefully I'll live to 100. But if I don't, I'll still have goals up to the last day that I live on this earth. Because goals are something that drives people and gives you a purpose. Continue to live. Whether you're 20, 30, 40, whatever it might be. Continue to live allows you to continue to get better. And you become better and better and better. And so it's the opposite of what society tells you, that as you get older, you're supposed to become weaker and all this other kind of stuff. Well, that could be biologically in some senses, but in other senses, you become stronger. And you have to kind of cater to those strengths to accomplish the things you want. And you should never give up on having goals. They will drive you more and more. And if a person, especially a woman in this case, sees that you have all kinds of goals, you become a lot more attractive. And now, once again, you have to make that choice whether you want that woman or not. But you're doing your own thing. You're running your own life. And when women realize that, you become a huge catch. You become someone they want. Because very few men are in that category. This is why we call it the 1% club. So as you don't respond, as you're doing your own thing, as you're living your own life, you're not responding to these things. And you'll respond when you get a chance. And you're not trying to be impolite. And you don't want to be manipulative. But the idea is that you're so busy running your stuff, you don't really have time. And this is the kind of thing that you want to be at. That's going to allow you then to find time with that special person you find that you want to spend time with once you establish yourself. Establish yourself first. Get your goals. Develop all the things you need to do. Get yourself in order. You'll have women more than you think, because they will see that and they will see the confidence. But where does that start? It starts with a level of self-control. And where does self-control come from? Well, it all comes together when you start retaining your energy. Why do I say that? Well, all these other things that people are addicted to, gambling, overeating, drugs, sex, all these kind of things, all are related to your level of control. And surprisingly not, all these things you put together, whether it's drinking, alcohol, drugs, gambling, whatever it might be, all these things seem to come together, right? The addiction's an addiction. So when you look at these things, they feed off each other, right? You usually have, people who go to parties and they have alcohol, they have drugs, they have sex, maybe they have gambling. I mean, it's not much, but it's certainly overeating. All these things come from the same type of temperament, right? You can't control yourself, and if you can't control yourself, others can control you. And this is where the narcissistic behavior comes in. Again, if you can't control yourself, others will control you. This is what the problem is with dealing with a narcissistic person. They sense this. They sense if you do not have self-control, say, for example, I've had many cases over the years, especially, before I was married, and times when I was married, you might have people who are trying to seduce you, right? They may, in some ways, have very little clothes on, but they're giving you a certain nonverbal message, right? You have to be able to sit there and say, okay, this is not worth, what I have to pay to actually do this with this person. And there's been times over the years, way before, a lot of times before I got married, and a couple times even after I got married, that I'd say, I walk away. That was my first knowledge of what I had to do. You got to say no. You got to say no. You got to be able to withstand the temptation. This is what the devil does, Satan, satanic type forces. They try to have you go ahead and fall into temptation, and then you get down that rabbit hole, and all of a sudden now you're getting addicted. And now the bottom line then is you get away from God, and now you go into the other side. And then this is what Satan wants you to do. And so this is what is the whole idea about the analogy, in my opinion, of Adam and Eve and the egg, the apple, right? The apple was a temptation. We all have temptations that are given to us every day. Like I said, the birds can fly over. The birds of temptation can fly over your head. But you cannot let them rest and make a nest in your head. And this is what happens when people with addictions, whether it's gambling, overeating, what it might be, right? We all have to have that level of self-control. So something even like easily taking a shower, a cold shower. I've gotten to a point where I take a warm at the beginning, and then I just take an ice cold shower after that, right? Why is that? Well, it's a level of anticipation, dealing with adversity. You have to learn how to control yourself. And part of that is controlling how you react to things. And so you have temptation to sit in front of you, a woman who doesn't have any clothes on sitting in front of you, right? Can you just walk away from that situation? 99% of men can't. The 1%, warriors, we can. Because we have other things that are more important than that. And if you make other things important, you become a lot more confident, stronger, and you become a leader in this world. And this is what God wants. God wants men who are leaders. God does not want men who are just going to be simps for women and just do anything they want because they're afraid, and they're givers by nature, but now they have a little confidence, and so on top of that, the narcissistic women may use them. Now, not all women are narcissistic. If they're givers, that's great. You have a woman who you need to look at maybe long term. But for the most part, you're going to see women who see that as a weakness and may take advantage of that to obviously survive themselves. And this has been happening for thousands of years, and it's never going to stop. Human beings are human beings. Women and men, going back to the caveman days, have tried to survive any way they can. Men, because they're physically strong, they can do that and deal with physical stuff. Females are very smart. They know, they've learned how to use their brains to survive and do things in the society. And so a lot of that comes to, the physical prowess, the ideas that, that they can create, and all those things behind the scenes. So when we talk about this, it's really a matter of what is the purpose this person has. Are they giving you back the same as you give out? If that's the case, you have a wonderful relationship with the person, you're great. But if they're always taking or asking for things and you're giving to them, you're also enabling that too. So great topic. Thank you, Sultan Job, for that one. I appreciate that. We're going to probably start talking about brahmacharya a little bit more in the next couple ones, calmness more, and also edging and things like that. So a lot of issues to come. Again, guys, I'm going to try to make an effort this spring to go ahead and you'll probably not see me in the car anymore pretty soon, not for a little while yet still, because I gotta go look for one and get a nice PC to kind of work with. But I'm gonna probably go to using a computer than my phone, and I'm gonna try to see if I can expand this a little bit, and also then kind of look at trying to find offers, maybe even Patreon or something like that, or doing some ways we can create a different channel just for tutoring or mentoring or something like that. All right, till then, my friends, I always leave you two things in this wonderful Sunday afternoon. And you want to see corruption, my friends, all you got to do is look at some of the NFL stuff that's going on. Once again, everything goes back down, and don't be surprised when you're looking at professional sports as well, my friends. You look at things like, gambling and how that affects. Once again, the temptation is very great. And who knows, we've had examples of cheating and things like this in the past. And who knows, if it's not happening all the time, more than we think. So it's just something to think about when human nature gets involved in temptation. This is why you have to be strong in things that you do. All right, so two things I always leave you with. Have a great Sunday afternoon here. One, every day is a new day to a great person and a great warrior, and you guys are all great warriors. Keep up the good work. And number two, guys, we have to always continue to bet on! Have a great afternoon, guys. Take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you soon.